Susan Clark is with us tonight. Susan's from Canada originally, and she won an Emmy for her portrayal of Babe Dietrich's in Zaharias, and more recently she starred as Amelia Earhart on NBC. And she's currently appearing in a play at the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles called Getting Out. Would you welcome Susan Clark? I knew tonight that you were originally from Canada.
Really?
Yeah. Whereabouts?
Originally from Sarnia, Ontario.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it. This is incredible.
60 Minutes did a thing on that. You know, they have that thing about Quebec wanting to speak, all the citizens to speak French, and they got all of this going on up there in Canada. What do you think's gonna? You have anything to think about that at all?
I have a farm up there,
yeah.
And I watch all the news at Christmas when I was up, and the Prime Minister seems to think everything's in control, and that René Lévesque, who is the leader of the Parti Québécois, is going to burn himself out because it's economically really not very feasible. So when it comes to putting bacon and bread on the table, I think
I can understand. I guess the French-speaking people want to hang on to a certain heritage or culture or keep the language, but I think what I understand the problem was that, was making people who wanted to send their children to English schools saying, well, it's illegal, and they were bootlegging children into English schools, and it really was kind of a strange
it's very difficult to explain to a lot of people down here who don't really
I wasn't that much aware of it until I saw the documentary.
It's really passionate and violent. A lot of people are prepared to go to war. I mean, it's heavy. Let's change the subject.
Yeah. Well, when you get into somebody's cultures, wow. Did you have somebody say you had trouble with the rain today or recent? I mean, this rain or the rain before?
The rains are not only ruining my house, they're ruining my romance. It's disaster. You see, Alex and I have decided that it would be fair.
That's your hubby.
Right. That it would be fair if we did a role reverse. In other words, while I was working 12 hours a day down at the music center, he'd take care of the house.
Now, the women's magazines always say this is such a wonderful idea.
Well, we thought we'd give it a shot, and everything went okay until the rains came. And I woke up one morning and kind of went in to get the tea and stepped right in the dog poo. That opened the day. Then as I got dressed, I heard a shriek from the other room, and the sewers had blocked up from the street, and all of this matter was rising in the bathtub and the shower. And Alex said, "You can't do this to me. You can't leave me. What am I going to do?" It was his week, sure.
That was his
so
week.
I said, "What do you mean, what am I going to do? It's your week. Walk your fingers through the yellow pages. I'll call you later."
And you went off to work?
And I went off. I was so guilty. I mean, I know it's not fashionable to be guilty, but I really was guilty. I got there, I had to make an excuse.
Let's be honest.
I
now,
called.
Secretly, weren't you just kind of...
Well, no, because I didn't know what to do either.
Yeah, it's about time the man knows what goes on, and when those emergencies always arise. The husband's usually never home.
That's right. That's right.
You know?
So anyway, he called the plumber. The big machine was there pumping it all out. Came home after the show. 2 days later, the next rainstorm turned you on, right?
Yeah.
11:30 at night. And I see this large pool of water. And it's one of those tense discussions where you don't really want to start a fight. Did you walk the dog in the rain? Of course I walked the dog. What is that? Looked, another pool. The whole room, the water was coming up through the floor.
That's not just from your dog.
That was God.
I thought that you were blaming this on the dog.
Giving us the water. No, even the dog. Isn't that terrific? And we had to get all the laundry that he hadn't taken and sandbag the house. Yeah. I mean, it's a disaster area.
Almost everybody's having problems out here, even if they're up on higher ground. The people who are really suffering, the people in the canyons with the mudslides, and you see some of those problems they're going through, and you feel pretty lucky.
Yes.
We had little water damage, but nothing like that.
Well, not losing the whole house.
Yeah. So you now are putting in, is this a working night for you? I mean, when you finish here, you go to work?
I finish here and I go to work, yeah.
Yeah.
The rain has brought in a lot of kooks from the outside to the theater.
Do you find, that's an interesting thing, we were talking about that one night. No performer's ever figured out audiences. When you're in a good mood, when they're in a so-so mood, it seems to really depend on kind of the way they mix together and how they feel as a group. Have you ever been able to figure it out one night to the next? Because you can do a play which is done pretty much the same every night. The lines have to be the same, the cues, you might have a little different reading, but everything is the same. And yet your audiences, your reaction to that same play and a certain scene can change night after night, and it's just a number of different people.
I think you're right. I think there's a collective consciousness that's there, and that's affected by how their day went and how they respond to each other and the weather outside.
Do you ever figure you're doing something terribly wrong, though, because something you've done the night before played wonderfully,
And then it
the
just
next
lays
night,
like
and
an egg.
And you say, what did I do? And you haven't done anything. It's just a collective audience reaction again.
But I think people are talking. I find I haven't done a play for a couple of years, and it's the first one here in Hollywood. If you're watching TV, you talk back to the screen. You know, get out of here, you're dumb, or they don't like. They talk back in the theater.
Well,
They give us notes, like they get to a certain point in this play, which is a very serious theme, but it's very funny, and they say, "Right on, Mama," if you think you made the right decision.
From the audience?
From the audience, young kids who are there watching the play, and they get involved and they talk to you. That's right, you made the right decision there. And when the mother finds the hat, everybody knows it's going to be explosion. They say, "Oh no, she found the hat."
That's interesting. That
And we
get the
can
audience.
hear it. Then there was this guy who freaked out at the language, which is not Mary Poppins. It's pretty tough. And he went bananas right in the middle row, and as we looked out going through our number, he started pulling his hair and screaming and saying, "You're garbage! You shouldn't be in a theater! Get off the stage!" And the other, and that made the audience nervous. And
yes,
whispering and saying, "What's the matter? Is that part of the show?" You know, which it wasn't.
And he got up and split?
He didn't get up and split. He was dragged out. Literally. Some of the members of the audience helped because they felt sympathetic, and they literally dragged him out. All the little red-coated attendants who want to be in show business.
Tends to make you feel you're not appreciated. When somebody stands up in the audience and yells garbage, and they have to take him out. There's a sense of insecurity there.
But it's okay, you know, because it gave us a breather. You know, do you know what it's like having your head in the armpit of a costume that's been worn by an energetic actor for 8 weeks? It's called breath control.
Let me take a short break here. We're going to come right back. Stay where you are. Talking to Susan Clark, who has to leave in a little while because it's a working night. The things you played on television always are energetic women. Athletes in a way. Amelia Earhart, athletic type of woman. Babe Dickerson's a Harrius. Were you?
This is energetic, too. I broke my toe.
During the play?
Yes, 3 nights before we opened. There's a simulated rape scene, and the
well,
guy
I hope it's not a
playing
real
it is...
one. I mean, that
well, it
goes
isn't
without saying.
Thank you. And he's 6'3" and weighs about 280, and I make this lunge at him to protect myself, and he went crunch and picked me up and sailed me, and I skidded down on the bed, and I didn't feel it until we finished the scene. A couple seconds later, blackout, and I put my foot down, and this pain shot up, and everybody was terrific, and the ice was there, and no explanation whatsoever. I mean, they just wound it with tape, and
you went on the rest of the play?
On.
What'd you do, break it?
Yeah, it's healed now. But it's very strange to have one act walking around perfectly happy, and the next one it's a gimp with a large white bandage.
And no explanation
with no
to the
reference
audience.
in the play. No, it's just too complicated to explain what happened. And they didn't see it happen so fast.
Well, that's got to be strange from the audience all of a sudden saying, "Why is she limping?"
Yeah. What do they do in the intermission?
I've often wondered, you know, on the daytime soaps very often on television, they will change actors or actresses right in the middle of a series. The wife will go on away on a vacation, and another wife comes back, right? Or they'll change characters, and nobody seems to bother anybody. It's just a new wife or a new husband, and they write them out of the play or something, and somebody else shows up. But it doesn't seem to bother anybody.
I think audiences will accept anything if you believe it.
Yeah. How's the play going? Well, you enjoy
It's
it?
going very well. It's playing through April the 2nd, and
Right.
In spite of the weather, we've had very good and receptive houses. It's fun.
Yeah. This doesn't mean you are going to stay away from motion pictures or television, does it?
No. There's a movie that I did last fall called The North Avenue Irregulars, a Disney movie that comes out in the summer.
I think actors, quote unquote, have to get into the theater occasionally.
It's fun
The
to
ones
do
I
the
have
3.
talked with, to kind of get recharged and get that live audience feeling and the immediate reaction, which you don't get from television or from motion pictures until it's all over. So every night when you go out there, you know whether you're going to be, how it's playing.
And then they surprise you. Sometimes they're real quiet in the first act because they're listening very hard. It's a Kentucky accent, and sometimes it's a little difficult. And then they pick it up, and the second act just sails, or the reverse.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It's a new performance every night.
So it's
That's
called
fun.
Getting Out. It's the Mark Taper Theater through...
April 2nd.
I know you got to go to work tonight. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. It's
And watch your
good to
toe.
see you.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
the leader
Right.
of the Parti Québécois, is going to burn himself out because it's economically really not very feasible. So
Yeah.
when it comes to putting bacon and bread on the table, I think
I can
it's
understand. I
going
guess
to-
the French-speaking people want to hang on to a certain heritage or culture or keep the language, but I think what I understand
it's
the
tearing
problem
the
was
country
that,
apart.
yeah, I was making. Susan Clark is with us tonight. Susan's from Canada originally, and she won an Emmy for her portrayal of Babe Dietrich's in Zaharias, and more recently she starred as Amelia Earhart on NBC. And she's currently appearing in a play at the Mark Taper Forum in Los Angeles called Getting Out. Would you welcome Susan Clark? I think I knew tonight that you were originally from Canada.
Really?
Yeah, whereabouts?
Originally from Sarnia, Ontario.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it. This is incredible.
60 Minutes did a thing on that. You know, they have that thing about Quebec
Oh,
wanting
yes.
to speak, all the citizens to speak French, and they got all of this going on up there in Canada. What do you think's gonna? You have anything to think about that at
I
all?
have a farm up there,
Yeah.
and I watch all the news at Christmas when I was up. And the Prime Minister seems to think everything's in control, and that René Lévesque, who is
People who wanted to send their children to English schools saying, well, it's illegal, and they were bootlegging children into English schools, and it really was kind of a strange
yeah,
going
it's
on
very
up there.
difficult to explain to a lot of people down here who don't really
Yeah, I wasn't that much
understand
aware of it until I saw the
that
documentary.
It's really passionate and violent. A lot of people are prepared to go to war. I mean, it's heavy. Let's change the subject.
Yeah.